I just got back from a first and last date that had the most terrible ending, and I want to tell you about it because it was so insane that I was like, I need to share this because I feel like people have gone through this, and I want to focus more on the red pill agenda mentality, the way that it is like poisoning men versus his character, because I feel like that really is what the problem was. This man, who I also have blocked on Instagram and phone number, and I didn't block him on TikTok because I was like, you know what? I'm not ashamed of how I feel. And I also feel like this could be a learning lesson for him if he's open to hearing it, and maybe he can see how wild his behavior was. I met him about a year ago at an event that we worked together. He had been pursuing me for a while, kept messaging me, asking me out, saying that he wanted to meet up. Finally, I was like, okay, sure. I perceived him to be younger than he was, so I was like, I don't think like age-wise he's necessarily someone I would go for, but he's super nice. The couple times we worked together, he was very nice. We laughed, whatever, like we got along. So I was like, let me give him a chance. Let me not be so close-minded, because even if there is an age gap, maybe there could be something there. So mistakes were made. So he was like, okay, cool. I made a reservation at this place. I'll meet you there at this time. We'll get drinks. It's happy hour, whatever. Get some light bites, and then we'll see, like, maybe we'll go for drinks somewhere else or whatever. And I was like, cool. We meet up. I want to say like 2 hours passed of us, like, we ordered tapas. I was having like a little sangria. He was having his drink. We're having a great time. We're having great conversation. There were definitely some flags that were raised. But me being in my like, let's be open-minded space, I was like, okay, this guy clearly is like a nice person, and there's some ways that he thinks that I think could be detrimental to dating, but I don't think it's enough for me to like write him off. And I like his energy. He seems like a nice person. I like some of the ways that he views the world in like a very positive sense. But one thing he did say was, I don't get into conversations about religion or politics because I feel like that's iffy. And I was like, that usually means like secret MAGA or like secretly conservative or secretly oppressive towards women. And every woman knows this when it comes to like being on Hinge or Bumble. If a guy says like not political, he's probably has beliefs that are oppressive towards you or towards, a marginalized group of people. We get toward the end of the date. The waiter brings the check. The check sits there for like 15 minutes. And I'm in a space now, because I'm older, to where I don't feel uncomfortable and feel like I need to offer to pay half, because I'm like, you asked me out, you wanted to see me, it's the first date, you should be paying for it. And so the check is sitting there, and the waiter comes over and he's like, hey, should we take care of this? It's been a while, you guys gonna pay? And he gets mad awkward, and like his face gets kind of serious, and he's like, oh yeah, I guess so. And he like goes into his pocket like slowly. The waiter walks away, and then he's like, so like, like just to be transparent, like this wasn't a date necessarily. And I was like, okay. And he goes, yeah, I mean, like, I could like pay for it, but if you want to split it, like we could do that. I was like, okay. And then he's like, but so let me ask you, like, what's going on with your dating life? What's your dating life been like? And I was like, well, I haven't been on a date since February. It is now July, because I've been working on myself. I've been healing, and I'm being very intentional and very specific about what I'm looking for. So like, I'm not, my stage of like having fun and just going out just to go out is behind me. And so like, that's kind of where I'm at, and I haven't really been dating anybody. And he was like, okay, cool. And I was like, how's dating been going for you? And he goes, yeah, well, I'm starting a new job soon. I'm not really in a place to like get into anything serious. I'm not really looking for a relationship. I'm not necessarily looking for a one-night stand, but I'm looking for kind of that middle spot. And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, but like, if you want to, the next one could be a date if you want to go out again. And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, I mean, or, I could pay for this now if you want to give me some ass. As soon as he said that, mind you, there are people near us. So like these tables, we're sitting on a patio. The tables are very close by. So there's a couple to our left. There's people like back, behind him and behind me. And he said this loud enough for them to hear. And the table next to us, I don't know if they were listening to the conversation, but the guy turned over and looked at us. And in my head, I was like, that's wild to say. And that's wild to say in front of other people in like mixed company in a public space. Like literally, I will pay for this meal if you'll sleep with me. Not even trying to hide the fact that this is a transactional thing for him. And I feel like this is a thing that I have come across a couple times before, or at least one time really seriously before, where men are being coached into hiding their red pill mentality and revealing it at a moment where you're kind of a little bit invested already, just to test you and see how you react. Because I had something similar happen back in, I want to say like March, where I was talking to a guy. We met, we were talking, laughing, whatever. We had a great time. I want to say like an hour into talking. We weren't on a date. We met in like a public space. And then when we exchanged numbers and we talked on the phone later on that night, that's when he showed his red pill mentality and was just did a complete 180 to where I was like, I don't even recognize the person that I'm talking to right now. And we just met. And who you're showing me is literally Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like, who is this other person? I've definitely come across dating coaches where they talk about staying on top of what the red pill atmosphere is talking about and the tips and tricks and the methods they're teaching them. And I don't really want to subject myself to that because it's just going to make me angry. And I don't want to be resentful towards men more than I already am, because I know there are good men out there. So I don't want that to warp my view of men in general. But it is important to stay on top of these things and to be aware of them, because I feel like that's what was happening. It very much seemed like something he had been like coached into doing versus something necessarily that he was doing because he genuinely believed that it was the right thing to do. Maybe he did, I could be wrong, but because it's been a pattern that I'm seeing where men are showing like their really good side, and it's kind of like, it seems like they're coaching them into do all the things that women want, ask her out, make the reservations, and then flip the switch on her and see how she responds. Like, if you want her to pay her, if you want her to put out, then like see how she responds to that. So that didn't work on me because I'm in a very different space than where I was 10 years ago. I think with age comes wisdom. And so I basically left. I was like, hey, I need to go to the restroom. And I went to the restroom and I actually asked the waitress inside, I was like, do y'all have a back exit? Because I'm on a really terrible date. And she was like, no, I'm so sorry. And I was like, it's fine. So I went out the front door. We were on the patio area out in front of the restaurant. I went out the front door and I booked it. And I walked off because while I was I actually did go to the restroom. While I was in there, I was like, in situations like this, you question yourself and you're like, okay, am I overreacting? Am I reacting too strongly? Is this not that big of a deal? And the more I sat in it, the more I was like, no, this is disrespectful. This is not okay. This is terrible treatment. This is like, he's objectifying me and treating me like I'm less than, and not like I'm not worthy of $100 bill for dinner, and like that's not okay. So I should leave, and I shouldn't feel guilty about that, and I also don't owe him anything. So I left. I walked off. I actually walked on a grate as I was leaving, and it was very loud, so I was like, I don't know if he saw. I basically just didn't even look and like kept it moving, and I feel zero guilt about that, and I actually feel really good. I wanted to share this to spread awareness, to share just how ridiculous it is, because it's been less than an hour and I'm already like, this is just funny. Like, I'm gonna laugh at this. I'm gonna tell my friends about it and be like, can you believe that this happened? But it's also something to be aware of. There are genuinely good people out there and there are genuinely good men, but a lot of them have fallen into this toxic environment online that is coaching them into doing these things and misleading women and tricking women. So just be aware of it, and do not be afraid to walk out on the date. Whether or not he knows you're walking out, walk out secretly or walk out in front of his face. Like, you owe him nothing. You deserve to be treated well.
Gather around while I tell you about the worst first date I've ever been on. So I matched with this guy on Bumble. He asked me out pretty quickly, which normally I like to talk for a few days just to make sure we're compatible first, but I was going through a really bad breakup and just kind of looking for a distraction, so I said okay. He had initially proposed a pretty fancy restaurant, and I said yeah, but then the day of, he texted and he was like, hey, Dave & Buster's just opened, would you rather go there instead? And I was like, absolutely. So we had planned to meet there at 6, but then at 5:30 he texted me and he was like, hey, I'm probably not going to be there until about 6:15 because I'm late getting off work. I was like, totally fine. So I'm walking out the door at 5:50 to get to the restaurant at 6:15. And he texts me as I'm walking out the door and he's like, oh, I got off work on time after all. I can still be there at 6. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be there until 6:15. He's like, why? I was like, well, I left later because you told me you were going to get there later. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do for 15 minutes by myself at the restaurant? And I was like, I don't know. I told him I was going to get there at 6:15 because that's what he had changed it to. So he calls me at 6:10 and he's like, am I getting stood up? And I was like, no, I said I'd be there at 6:15. Like, I'm 5 minutes away. He's like, oh, I'll go inside and get a table. And I was like, okay. Should have just gone home. Lesson learned. So he goes inside to get a table. So I get inside. He's already at the table. He has a beer in front of him, and he says he's ordered 2 appetizers for us, mini quesadillas and pretzels with cheese dip. He's like, is that okay? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. He has his beer, and he's like, did you want anything to drink? So I start looking over the menu, and he's like, loudly, he's like, did you notice that there's no prices on this menu? I had to ask the waitress the price of every single drink on this menu, and it's so expensive, you might as well just go pregame somewhere else, because, like, this is crazy. But, like, did you want a drink? And I was like, nope, just water. Just water's fine. So the appetizers come, the 2 that he picked out before I even got there. And I'm not super hungry. I'm just kind of nibbling on them. He eats most of them. And then he's like, I'm still hungry. Do you care if I get an entree? And I'm like, no, of course not. And he's like, well, you should pick one for me. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cute, like, I guess. So I start looking at the menu. And he's like, it has to be really low in calories because I have a 1,200 calorie per day limit that I have to stay under. And I'm like, you picked Dave & Buster's. You picked the appetizers. What? So I'm like, okay, you should get the sliders. And the waitress comes over and she's like, did you want anything else? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to get the sliders and I'm going to get a second beer because it's happy hour. She's like, okay. She walks off and she comes right back. And she goes, oh, happy hour is actually over, but I can still get you that beer for full price if you want. And he holds up his phone and it says $6.59. And he's like, happy hour is not over. I want the happy hour price. She's like, well, our computer says it's 7:01 and that's what we have to go off of. But did you still want that beer for full price? And he's like, no, I want you to go talk to your manager. And she's like, okay. So she leaves. I'm mortified. He's already asked her the price of every single drink and now he's doing this, but like, okay. So she comes back over and she's like, okay, I talked to the manager and he's going to go ahead and give you that happy hour price. So it'll be $1 off your beer for happy hour. And he's like, okay. And I was like, $1? It's $1 off for happy hour. And this is how you're acting. Like, it's never okay to act like this, but for $1? So while we're waiting for his sliders, we're chatting and he's like, so what do you like? What do you like to do? And I was like, I like to travel. And he's like, oh, like, where are you? Do you have a trip planned? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to Vegas in a couple weeks. And he's like, oh, like with family? And I was like, no, just by myself. And he goes, by yourself? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, that seems kind of pathetic. And I was like, no, I really like traveling by myself, actually. And he's like, well, where else have you gone by yourself? And I was like, well, I went to Disney World. And he's like, you went to Disney as an adult? And was like flabbergasted. So I was like, okay, so what do you like to do? And he's like, well, I like to travel. And I was like, okay, to where? And he tells me the name of a lake that's like an hour away and then gets out his phone and proceeds to show me at least, like, no joke, several hundred photos of this lake. It was just like the same picture of the lake over and over and over and like the same picture of a fish over and over and over, like for like 15 or 20 minutes. I was like, So then he's like, does your family live here? And I'm like, yeah, my whole family's here. And he's like, yeah, me too. That's why I get paid so much more than people my age, because it pays to have a dad who owns his own company. Like, that's why I make so much money. And I was like, okay. He goes, do you have any nieces or nephews? I was like, yeah, I have 3 nephews. And he goes, how many siblings do you have? And I said, I have 1 sister. He goes, oh, so obviously she's married. And I was like, nope, she's a single mom. And he goes, 3 kids and she's a single mom. And I was like, yep, that's how life works out sometimes, I guess. And he goes, well, what does she look like? So at this point, the waitress comes over and she's got the check and she's like, did you want to buy a game card? And he's like, yeah, because it's half price game night, right? And she's like, yes, but the cards still cost the same. The games just cost half the amount. So like, you're still paying $20 for a $20 game card, but games that cost like 10 tokens will now cost 5 or whatever. And he's like, but I thought it was half price. And so she explains again and I'm just like, oh God. So he was like, did you want to play games? And I did not know what to say. And so I was like, sure, hoping I could just like get us out of there. So I got the cheapest option and my plan was to go to the most expensive games and just like run us out as quick as I could and dip. So one of my go-to games that costs a lot of tokens or whatever is Deal or No Deal. So I head over to Deal or No Deal and I start playing and he's just like making these little comments the whole time I'm playing, and I ended up, whatever I ended up with, he was like, oh, that's a shame you only got that amount. And I was like, okay. And he's like, well, let me show you how it's done. And I was like, it's a game of luck, but all right. So he picks a case, and the first case he picks, it's the 500,000 case. And he's like, yes. And I'm like, interesting reaction, but okay. And like, as the game is going, like the higher number he picks, the more excited, like he just keeps getting more and more excited. And so finally I'm like, you only have like the $1, the $2, and the $1 million case left. Like, why are you so excited about this? He's like, well, because the way that you play the game is by finding the $1 million case. And I was like, nope, that's not the point. That's not how you play the game. And he's like, yeah, I think I know what I'm doing. And I was like, okay. At any rate, I was able to run us out of tokens pretty quickly. Immediately was like, okay, I gotta go. No hug, no handshake, no nothing. I was just like, okay, thanks, have a good night, and left. That was like October, November, and I didn't hear from him again until February, when out of nowhere he texted me, and I deleted his number the day of the date, and he was like, hey, how's it going? And I was like, who is this? And he sends me a selfie, and he's like, it's so-and-so. I just wanted to catch up. How was Vegas? And I was just like, LOL, and blocked him. Okay, that was one of my worst first dates, but like, don't get mad at me when I show up at the time you changed it to. Get mad at me about the amount of calories in the food at the place you picked. Insult my sister, insult my hobbies, brag about how well off you are, and then mansplain Deal or No Deal to me really, really wrong. Like,
this is a story about the worst first date / blind date, kind of. I don't know, we sort of knew each other, that I've ever had. Also, I'm long-winded. I tell long stories, and I'm animated. I told a story like 24 hours ago about the first time I got a colonic that I didn't know I was going to get, and I'm getting eaten alive. So here's your warning. There's a 2x speed option, or there's a swipe option, or there's a listen option, like a podcast. Okay, this is a podcast. There you go. So I met this guy on Tinder in 2015, and we talked for about 2 weeks, and we decided he lived in a different state. I lived in Kansas, he lived in Iowa. We decided to meet halfway in Omaha. And as I was driving here, I called him. Well, I was driving to Omaha. I called him and I said, hey, I'm on my way, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know where we were going. He had set up the date. And I said, what are you wearing? So I have a rough idea. And he said, I'm wearing jeans and an affliction shirt. And I thought it was a joke. And I said, no, you're not. And he said, yes, I am. And I said, no, you're wearing an affliction shirt? And he said, yes, should I not be? And I said, no. You should not be. You shouldn't own an affliction shirt, actually, because this is telling me a lot about what this is going to be. And he thought it was funny, and he's like, should I go to the mall and buy a new shirt? And I'm like, I mean, maybe. Ew, affliction? No thanks. Yes, I clearly am judgmental, but I go and I meet him he's at a hotel. He got me a hotel. He was not staying there. He said, I got you a hotel. I'm going to stay somewhere else, but I just don't want you to feel like you have to drive home. So he meets me at the hotel that he got me. I mean, this is a really unsafe story, but this is truly what happened. We met online, lived in separate states. I didn't tell anyone except my sister that I was meeting him. And so we meet in the hotel. He carries my bags in, very chivalrous, and he's wearing an affliction shirt. And he's wearing jeans that are like very baggy and have white stitching on them. And he also is wearing K-Swiss shoes from this is 2015, and I think the K-Swiss shoes might have been from like 2001. I don't even know. He probably bought them in 2001. Like, that's how dirty and disgusting they were. So I'm automatically like, what have I done? I have to spend the night with this horribly dressed dude. But we did have good conversations over the last 2 weeks when we had texted each other. Why we hadn't met, why we didn't really talk a ton other than texting, is that I had a child and my child was not coming. I didn't want him to meet them. So it's kind of hard when you're a single mom to FaceTime, and it was also 2015, so I don't remember if that was a thing, whatever. So I didn't know fully, and we go, and he's taking me to Dave & Buster's. So we go to Dave & Buster's, the most romantic place you could ever imagine for your first date, with a guy that you don't want to be going with because he looks like I don't know. I'm trying to say things that aren't mean, but he doesn't look great. So we go to Dave & Buster's and we are eating, and I'm still trying to give him a chance. Also, I drove a long ways for this. As we're eating dinner, he is rolling his eyes at everything I'm saying. He looks very uninterested the entire meal. There's Mark 1 I was super annoyed with. I actually had dropped my phone in the car between the seat, and I thought it was in my purse the whole time, and it wasn't. And I had not told my sister that I was arrived and I was fine and not murdered, and she was freaking out because I didn't let her know that I had arrived. She was texting me over and over again. She was the only person I told that I had met someone online and I was gonna go see him for the first time. So she was freaking out. She doesn't have social media. So she's then having to think, who should I call that's not our mom, because our mom would freak out. She's calling people saying, do you know the person that Jordan met online? This is his name. Can you look him up? We need to figure it out. Like, she's not answering her phone. She's not texting me back. The whole time my phone is in the car, like had fallen, and I thought it was in my purse. So we finished the date at Dave & Buster's. I'm not impressed. He's rolling his eyes. I'm just not a fan of all of it. And he then says, do you want to go somewhere else? And I'm like, no, not really. I would like to just go back to the hotel. And he's like, it's not even late. And I'm like, yeah, I just, I'm tired. I drove a long ways. So he goes to the gas station, gets gas. He's planning to drop me off at the hotel. We drive by like a little dive bar. It's called The Nest in Omaha. And he's like, why don't we just go there? And I'm like, I don't want to go there. He's like, we'll just have one drink and that's it. So we stop at The Nest, and I just can't continue talking to this person because he's clearly annoyed with everything I'm saying. He's rolling his eyes. Why does he want to keep spending time with me? I don't know, because I'm also judgmental. So we get a drink, and I'm like, hey, let's play darts, because I'm bored out of my mind of talking as he continues to be annoyed. So we play darts, and I'm normally really good at darts, and I actually was not doing well that game, and I was very frustrated. And so he then starts to make fun of me because I wasn't doing well at darts. And I was like, honestly, that was my favorite thing about him, was that he challenged me and was like, I thought you were good at darts. I liked that. I like a little poking. I like challenging, a little spice. So I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. So I go to the hotel. I spend the night in the hotel. Don't plan to see him again. He had to go because his son had a wrestling meet nearby. And on the way home, I was driving home, and he was texting me and was like, hey, so are we going to plan to see each other again? And I was like, no, I don't want to see you again. And he said, I need you to tell me why. And I'm like, is this real life? So then he calls me and we talk on the phone, and he's like, I need you to give me reasons. Like, we talked for 2 weeks and everything was fine, and you show up. I know you didn't like my clothes, but you know what? They're clothes. They can be changed. Like, why do you not want to see me again? And so I said, you were rolling your eyes at everything I was saying at dinner. And he said, I totally forgot to tell you, I had LASIK eye surgery this week, and I forgot to bring my drops, and so my eyes were burning and they hurt really bad, but I did not want to complain because you were talking so much. So this is the story of how I met my husband.
I just went on a first date so horrendous that I had to have one of my friends call me with a fake emergency, which I have never in my years of dating in New York City had to do. Anyways, I meet this guy at a bar, and it's going fine. I don't like him, and I know I won't see him again within literally the first 5 minutes, because he's it's just his aura. He looked exactly like his pictures, but he was fully hunched over, he's speaking so slowly. It was just not a vibe, we were just not getting along. And I could tell that he really liked me, which I thought was surprising, because I was like, I am giving you nothing. Anyways, 20 minutes into the date, when I'm kill myself, I hope this is over, can I go home now? He's like, tell me about your worst date story. I don't know why. That doesn't seem like good date conversation. But I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking about it because I want to be like this one, but I don't feel like that's socially acceptable. So he's like, okay, in the meantime, I'll tell you about mine. But he volunteers to tell it, but then is super hesitant about sharing. And I'm like, no, you started this. You have to share yours, And so he's like, oh, I went to go get drinks with this girl. And then after we went to this hotel photo booth, and girls love that shit. And I was like, this sounds like a good date. And you went to a second location too. So how bad could it be? And he was like, no, it was a great date until we went back to my place. And I was like, what date was this? And he's like, it's a 9th or 10th date. Immediately no. Because why are you sharing a story about someone you went on 10 dates with? A bad date story has to be a first date, maybe a second. Because 10 dates in, that means you have terrible judgment. Something is wrong with you. You are fully dating this person at this point. And so anyways, he's again very hesitant. He's like, I don't want to share the rest of the story. And I'm like, bitch, you won't share it because you started this. So then he was like, yeah, and then one thing led to another, and she was giving me a hand job. Why did you think that that's appropriate? Anyways, so then he's like, and then she angled it upwards. So he was like, I came in my eye. Those are words that I never thought I would hear on a first date. Came in my eye. I came in my eye. And I'm sat there with my lychee martini. Like, what? And then he's just like, yeah, and it really burns. Now I have many questions. Do you have radioactive jizz? Like, why does it burn? It shouldn't burn. I was like, you need to drink more water. Drink more water. So then I'm like, I just am speechless. I'm sat there and he's like, yeah, so then I go to wash out my eye and it's like bright red. Like, it's like very bright red. And so then he's like, I lay down and she's trying to comfort me. So she like starts cuddling me, but I like am very irritated. So I ask her to leave. I'm sure disrespectfully. I'm sure he was rude. I don't think what men don't understand, when you tell me a story about another girl on the first date, I'm always on her side. You're always in the wrong. You are almost always in the, every story you guys tell about women, I'm like, give me her number so I can text her about how terrible you are. So then he's like, yeah, I ask her to leave. And he's like, I walk her downstairs. I don't think he walked her downstairs. Because why would you tell me that you walked her downstairs when like, that's just like implied if you ask somebody to leave, you like are a courteous gentleman, walk them downstairs. So he's like, she texted me and was like, that was mad disrespectful how you rushed me out of your house. I'm on her side. And he's like, and then we broke up. That's your worst date? Are you? Anyways, I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom. So then I go to the bathroom. I text everybody I know. I said, call me with an emergency. Call me with an emergency. I call my mom from the bathroom. I'm like, Mom. She doesn't answer because she like fucking hates me. But I leave on her voicemail that I'm like, hey, I know you want me to get married like so fucking bad. But just so you know, the men in the marriage market right now in New York City are coming in their fucking eyes. Just so you know. And I was like, call me back. But they're coming in their eyes. And I left that on my mom's voicemail, on my mother's voicemail, on the woman who birthed me, because it's getting out of hand, guys. And then he texted me after and was like, oh, like, I had a great time. I'm on my phone with my friend telling her that this was the worst date I've ever experienced in my whole life. And he texts me, I had a great time, would love to see you again. And I text him, like, you know, I don't think that it's a good fit, like, best of luck. And he texts me, I hope your TikTok pops off. So do we think he made up this story? Like, I'm just like, there's so many twists and turns.
Let me tell you guys about the worst first date that I've ever been on because it still keeps me up at night. So to set the scene, I'm a freshman in college, right? First red flag. Mind you, this was literally last year. I agreed to go on a date with this guy that I meet at a party. So me and my roommates are freaking out because not only am I going on a date, but I'm going on a date with a junior. Because I met him at a party, I literally forgot what he looked like. So when I got in the car, let's just say he was shocked. Comes and he picks me up from my dorm. As soon as I get in the car, I notice he's playing rap music. I literally tell this man to his face, I'm like, can you turn this off? Like, I know I'm black, like, but you don't need to play this around me. And still to this day, I don't know why I said that. But we're driving away to like where our date is, right? Whole time we're driving, the man is turned around looking at me while he's driving. I'm so weird. Like, I'm literally side-eyeing this man. I'm looking at him like, kid you not, I literally had to tell this man to look at the road and not me. You like it what you see? Everything designer that's on me. So I had a gut feeling in the bottom of my ass the whole time we're on this date or going to this date because I'm like, does he remember how tall I am? I'm a big girl. What he did when I got out of the car just made me feel obscenely big. Because this man looks me up and down, but it's like, you like it what you see? So this man asked me, how tall are you? 5'10". We finally get to the place and we're sat down, right? Chopping it up, normal conversation for 5 minutes. Out of fucking nowhere, this man gets up and he runs away. I can't even make this shit up. Like, he said one word to me and he was like, oh shit, my car. And he got up and he ran away. So I'm sitting here like, this man, I don't know about you guys, but I get the ick when I see a man run. So at this point, I'm low-key fed up, so I'm like, let me sabotage the date. Even though I low-key already did. Once I finally get my food, I don't eat it because I'm weird and I don't like to eat in front of people I don't know, and this man was staring at me through my soul. So instead of eating, I'm actually lore dumping on this man. Whole time I'm telling this man my deepest, darkest secrets, he sat there listening. Because I didn't eat my food because I was nervous. This man is like, okay, I'm gonna take your food home. Got a little upset at this point because this man takes my food. So while he's driving me back to my dorm, the car ride is silent. There's crickets. So obviously I'm over here thinking this man never wants to see me again. But little to my surprise, he asked me on a second date. Okay, but anyways, that's another video. That's always with you guys. Bye.
Get ready with me while I tell you my horrific dating story with an influencer. Me and said influencer met one weekend in Vegas. We were there for an A-list celebrities private concert weekend. So my friend and I, we met this guy and we met his entire team and crew and ended up hanging out with them all weekend and got to know them super well. They were so fun. We had a great time. There were honestly no complaints about the weekend. So me and this guy, we really hit it off and we kept in touch. We ended up planning out a 4-day trip for me to go visit him in LA because that's where he lived. Super excited for it because we had such a great time when we met in Vegas. So we planned out this 4-day trip. The time comes, I'm flying out, keep in mind, flying cross country. The plans were kind of all up in the air. So I didn't know if he was picking me up from the airport. I didn't know if I was Ubering to his house. I end up landing and I text him and I'm like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, should I call an Uber? Are you coming to get me? And he says, can you call an Uber? I still have a lot of work I need to finish. Which is like fine. Like, I know his job is crazy and busy and I didn't think much of it at the time. So I was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, let me just call an Uber. I walk into his house, I bring my luggage in, and I realize next to his room, there is an empty room because he used to have a roommate. His room was pretty small. My luggage was big because I packed a lot. And I was also going to a different part of California after his place, so I had to pack a lot. But I said to him, hey, since this room's empty, like, do you want me to put my stuff in it so it doesn't take up all the space in your room? And he was like, no, like, put it in my room. Put the luggage in my room and all your stuff. And I was like, okay. Like, I was just offering that so all my shit wasn't in his way. So that was a little bit like, I don't know, weird. Before dinner, we decided to take like the scenic route, I guess, and we ended up walking on the cliffside. Opposite of the cliffside were these beautiful houses, like ginormous houses that were stunning. The view was so stunning. We were right on the ocean. At this point, I'm just trying to like make conversation. And I think I said something about one of these huge houses where I was like, doesn't it make you wonder like what these people do for a living? Like, this house is insane. And he looks at me and goes, I never think about that kind of stuff. I just like chuckled and I was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, the type of people who, when you say something, you feel like they're immediately judging you. This is how I felt the entire time I was there. Fast forward to the next day. So the next day comes and we're trying to figure out what we want to do for the day. And he suggested going on a few different hikes. And I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do that. Whatever. The hikes ended up probably being like at least a couple hours, like running into mid-afternoon, late afternoon. And before we went on the hike, he was like grabbing stuff from the fridge, grabbing food. And in my head, I'm thinking, he's probably packing us like a picnic or like food to eat, you know, on the hike or on the beach we were going to after. We finished our hikes and this last hike was right by the beach, so we decided to walk down to the beach and sit on the beach and just chill. This is where things took a turn for the worse and I was like, who is this man? So at this point, I'm like hungry. We just did like at least 3 hikes. It was so hot. And it's like late afternoon, which keep in mind, back home, it was like dinner time for me. He pulls out bags of ground meat, chicken, protein, and just starts eating them. Just food for him and just meat. Didn't even say anything to me. Didn't look at me. Wasn't fazed. Just started eating his meat. There were other things that I just can't remember at this point that were adding up and just making me feel so like icky and uncomfortable, but I was like, you know what, push through it, like whatever. Next morning comes and he's like, I need to go to the gym. He goes to the Equinox, which is like, what, $300 a month? So I was like, that's fine, like I'll go with you, you know, I'll walk on the treadmill, do whatever. I had never been to an Equinox before. So we get there and there's like multiple floors to the Equinox. He's like, all right, I'm just gonna head upstairs with my buddy and do a quick workout. And I was like, okay, so you're meeting someone here and leaving me to just figure out what I want to do, figure out where I am. The gym is huge. I was like, okay, I'll be on the treadmill. An hour and a half goes by. Don't see him, don't hear from him. I'm like, did he leave me here? Like, where is he at and what is he doing? Walk around the Equinox trying to find this man, and I finally found him upstairs in a corner with this guy. And he's like, oh, we're just finishing our workout here, you can like stretch in the corner. I was like, okay, let me stretch in the corner. It was so weird. Like literally like a 2-hour workout where he just left me by myself in a gym I'd never been in, a huge gym, to go get a quick pump with his buddy. At this point, I'm just like not feeling the vibes at all. I just want to like leave. Like I'm not having any fun. I start to freak out a little bit. So once we get home, we get showered, we get changed. I'm like, hey, do you think we could swing by Air One so I can get a smoothie?
I want to hear about the worst date that you have ever been on because I feel like there's not many that can top this one. So when I was 19, I was dating around and I get set up by a work friend. She's like, I think that you should date this guy that I know. And I was like, okay, sure. So it was kind of like a blind date. Like she showed me a picture of him, so I kind of knew what his face looked like generally, but like then she just gave me his number and we just like texted. And so we set up this date and he's like, you should come to me. Like I have my own apartment because he was like 21 or 22. I was like, great. And he lived on the top floor of this super big apartment complex. Like it was like 15 or 20 stories. I don't know why I agreed to this, but he's like, yeah, meet me at my house. Then like I'll take us to the date. Again, I'm 19. I hadn't dated very much. And I was like, okay, like sure, normal. And my friend from work like set us up. So I'm like, okay, I can trust this guy. So I get there and he's like, yeah, I live on the top floor, which I actually didn't know until I got there. So I'd run this creaky ass elevator all the way up to the top floor, which scared me. And I go up to his apartment door and like knock on it, which again, I know all of this sounds insane, but I was 19 and a little dumb and naive. I knock on his door and he opens the door, but when he answers it, he is so tall that like, he's literally like this tall, like this is what I can see. He's like this much taller than the top of the door frame. And I was like, and he goes like this, like out of it. He's like, come on in. Okay, great. I am like average on the short side. I'm like 5'3". So, somebody 7 feet tall is like a little crazy next to me. And he's like, oh, take your shoes off. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I take my shoes off next to his shoes, which are so big that the only thing I could think of was to ask him what size they were. So I put my teeny tiny little Polly Pocket shoes next to his giant shoes and he says, they're a size 21. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I have to have them custom made. And I was like, I bet you do. So he is like so nervous. And now I'm nervous because now I've met a giant in real life. And he's like, oh, do you want a drink? And I go, no, I'm only 19. And he's like, okay, yeah. And he's like clattering the wine glasses together. And he is so nervous, making me nervous. And I'm like, we should just go to dinner. He's like, okay, we're going to go to this sushi spot. I'm like, great. I love sushi. The sushi spot we went to was like in a downtown area and the whole storefront is glass. So we get in his car and we're going to sushi. We like order our sushi. We sit down next to the windows. And this homeless man is outside and he's like kind of pacing back and forth with like all of his stuff. Like you can tell he's homeless. He's pacing back and forth with all of his stuff, kind of like he's looking for something. And I'm just like, okay, I can't like make eye contact with him. But also like, he's not gonna like come into this business either. I'm chatting with my date. The homeless man like looks at me and he like acts like he recognizes me and like gets excited. And he like comes inside and like makes a beeline for me. And I'm like, to my date, oh my God, like, I don't know what's about to happen. This homeless guy's coming up to us. This homeless guy like comes straight up to me and he was like, God sent me to you. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not good. And he like kind of tries to grab my hand and I'm like, oh no. And he's like, no, I'm like not trying to scare you, but like God really sent me to you. He said like, if you pulled out your wallet, I'm like, oh, here we go. He said, if you pulled out your wallet, you would have the last $2 that I need to get like a bus ticket back to my family. And I'm like, I don't have any cash. And he's like, no, like God told me in your wallet will be $2. And I was like, no, like I'm not giving you money. I'm just trying to eat. My date is like, hey man, like go away. He's like trying to get him to go away. It's just so awkward and uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, like he really needs to go. And he's like, no. Like God told me to come to you specifically. And I'm like, okay, sure. And he's like, your first name starts with a K. And I'm like, whoa, first guess, like, that's kind of crazy because, yeah, it does. And he's like, and your last name starts with an S. And I'm like, what is going on? Because my last name started with an S. I was like, okay, you're really freaking me out. And so I'm like, okay, if I give you $2, like, if I have $2, like, will you go away? I'm like, but I don't carry cash. Like, I'm just going to have quarters. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so here's the weird part. I open my wallet and there's $2 bills in there. And I was like, okay, here, take my $2. And he's like, see, God told me, like, he was going to provide, like, I needed to find you and you would give it to me. And now my date is like kind of freaked out too. I'm like, okay, will you leave now? And he's like, I just, like, want you to know, like, really, God sent me to you. I'm like, okay. He's like, points at my date. He's like, I know things about this man too. And I'm like, what? And this guy's like, yeah, what do you know about me? And he's like, oh, you used to write for a newspaper. This guy, like, turns white because, like, I didn't know he wrote for a newspaper. He, like, turns white and he's like, you need to go. And he, like, points at me and he's like, and you're gonna be, like, in healthcare, which, like, at the time I, like, wanted to go to school to be a doctor. So I was like, oh, that's so weird. I was like, please leave. And I'm getting, like, more freaked out by the second. He's like, okay, like, that's fine. Like, you know, thank you. I have my $2. I'm gonna get on the bus to go see my family. I am, like, so shaken up by this that I, like, turned to my date. I'm like, please get me in the car and, like, take me home. And he was like, no, we shouldn't end our date. I was like, no, I'm, like, really freaked out. That was, like, really weird. And I feel panicked and, like, uncomfortable. And I don't really know what's going on because that man, like, knew stuff about me. He's like, okay, so we start walking to the car. He was like, you know what's really weird? I used to write for the Chicago Tribune. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I find that really freaky. He's like, I'm a little freaked out too. I'm like, okay, please get me home. So now he's, like, a little freaked out, still nervous. I'm freaked out. And he's also upset because, like, I want to leave the date. So we get in his car and he is, like, so shaky. He, like, backs up and he slams into another car. And I just, like, break down. And I'm like, no way, you just got us into an accident. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? And I just start screaming at him. I'm like, get me back to my car now. So he takes me back to my car, like, after the whole incident. I get back to my car and I leave. That should be the end of it, right? Well, it was the end of me, like, ever speaking to him because it freaked me out. Fast forward to, like, years later, I meet my now husband, and we got on the topic of his friends, and his friend he was talking about worked at this company, and it was the same company that this guy I had previously gone on a date with worked at. And I told him about this date story, and he tells his friend, he's like, oh my gosh, this girl I'm dating just told me about this guy. He used to work there, maybe he still works there, and this crazy date story. He relays it to his friend. His friend's like, there's no way. He's on my bowling league and we're bowling right now. He's like, this guy's literally 7 feet tall, and sends a picture of this guy. And it's the weirdest story ever. Like, the freakiest date. And then, like, how somehow he was then connected to my now husband is just so funny. I just don't think anybody can really top this kind of date story.
After severe heartbreak, I made one of the biggest errors of my life. I downloaded Hinge. Don't even contemplate judging me because I know you've done it too. I downloaded that app, I met somebody there. He was good at holding a conversation, which I feel like is a lost art in dating nowadays. So I decided to meet up with him, something very casual, just to kind of, like, get some FaceTime and see if there was any energy. So we decided to go to the cinema. In the run-up, we were speaking on the phone a little bit more and more. And you know, one of those people who just have something to prove? And I feel like it usually stems from either inadequacy or imposter syndrome or just severe insecurity. But he just had something to prove. Like, he'll be breadcrumbing what he felt his achievements were. So his job, how much he made, what car he drives, how tall he is. He said he was 6'3". And like I said, he did it tactfully, so it wasn't coming off braggy, but I could tell what he was trying to do. Nobody here is stupid. I can see what you're trying to do. It's not impressive, but I know that sometimes some people who do that genuinely think that they're better than others, whereas others who do it because they're insecure, they're trying to prove themselves, or they feel like these are their selling points and it's really hard to get that across over the phone. So they just want to... So he came to pick me up. It was the same energy as it was in person. When we got to the queue now, we were standing in the queue for quite a while. I can't remember what movie had just been released, but there was quite a long queue. And so we were standing side by side, and he looked at me and he said, Bro, you're tall still. He now looked down at my shoe. Hello? Okay, your rent's money is not there. I'm wearing ordinary Adidas. You're supposed to wear heels. You're supposed to be the one putting on heels when you know that you're on the net telling lies about your height. 6'3", me, I'm 5'10". In fact, last time I got measured, I'm actually 177 centimeters, which is 5'9" and 0.6 or something. 5'9.5", 5'9.6". It's supposed to be me looking at your heels. You're supposed to put on balengwaga, wear platform shoe, when you know that you've been telling fibs and porky pies about that your height on the internet. As I'm standing, I should not be eye to eye with your shaper. So don't look down. Don't look down, look inward at why you felt like telling lies on the internet about your height. Don't get me wrong, this nigga, he was tall. He was taller than me for sure. Maybe 6'1". You don't need to tell lies. Like, why are you lying about your height at 6'1"? Like, it's not necessary. You on small shoes, 6'2". We now go into the cinema. This is the move that I was mentioning in my last video that I was telling my male friend that he was doing, and my male friend was like, nah, I do that, and eat still. I can't lie, it was because of this very move that he never heard from me again. Apparently, cinema dates is code for DTF. I didn't know that. His hand is on my leg, which is fine. The hand on the leg now starts to, you know, small, let me warm it up for you. He now started to roll his finger in a small circular motion on my knee. The pressure of his finger circulating on my knee now was getting heavier and more rhythmic and heavier and more rhythmic. I was telling my friend that that's what he did. He said, yeah, I can't lie, that move eats still. I'll be pulling that one and it eats. That move does not eat. I can't lie, I had to pick his hand and put it back on his lap. I'm actually trying to watch this movie. This movie is very scintillating for me, and I'm pretty sure Jason Momoa was in there. Never try and touch me like that when my man is looking. When my man is in the room, never in your life try to touch me like that. When grown men are on the screen, you suppose know your place. Just overly freaked out for no absolute reason. Like I said, he dropped me home, never heard from me since.
It genuinely baffles me the things men do that they think they can get away with because like the girls are like, oh, I want to be nonchalant and act like I don't care, not talk about it or not like address it to them. But I'm not, I will freaking say it. So I went on a date with the guy and we met, we DM'd, we FaceTimed, we were talking like, I thought a little bit, and like we weren't super serious, we never met in person, so we were just like talking in line. Met this man on person, took me on a date, like super respectful and all. I get home from like seeing him, he never like checks back in with me, make sure like I made it home or anything like that. And then the next day I was like trying to get my High Rocks tickets and posted a video or something on my story talking about like how I never got them, and a girl like was like, oh, I never got them either, and I was like, dang, like both of us. So we like called and we were like talking about how we were so upset about not getting our High Rocks tickets. She had done a High Rocks before and I was like, we should do one together. And then we were just like catching up. Like me and her were never really close, but we were sharing about what we had been doing in the past or like what we've been up to. I told her I just went on this date, and then I brought up the guy that I went on the date with because I saw they followed each other. And I'm like, okay, well, like whatever, if I see something I'm just like, oh, are y'all friends? Like, do y'all know each other? And I shared with her like how the date went. She's like, oh my gosh, no way, like me and that man have been DMing for like over a year, texting, like they would text like good morning, like good night, like share things about their day, like call each other. They were supposed to meet up in Nashville last time he was here. She was going to be going through where he lived and was going to see him. And then literally this man knew that we knew each other because we had done a photo shoot together, and I didn't know they were like talking like this. Like I always just thought they like followed each other, and me and her never really were close, so we never talked about it. And then she was like, yeah, like he's literally been talking to me. And as we were on the phone, he slides up on her story and is like, my queen, literally right after I went on a date with this man. Yeah, I'm sorry, but like I'm not one to ghost someone, but I'm also not going to sit around and give my energy and effort to someone and attention to someone that's literally giving their attention to like 10 other girls at the same time and pursuing them. Like I know my worth. I'm all about like, we were not dating or anything like that. So like go on other dates, go see if they're like, you like somebody else. But if you genuinely don't see your like my value, I'm not going to sit around and like fight for your attention when you're giving it all over the place. I just think it's so funny. And also, like, the fact that they think we're not going to find out that we both live in the same city. We both follow each other. We both go to all of the same events. And you're literally in both of our DMs pursuing us both. Thank you, sir.
So, I got cussed out on a first date. How does that happen, one might ask? It was a very, very small mistake. I don't even know that I'd really call it a mistake, actually. I go on a date with this guy who lives about an hour away. He already seemed kind of irritated, and maybe he wasn't going to come because he's like, I'm an hour away. And he was like, you know, I should have just read the signs, because he was kind of like, oh, well, it's an hour away, and if I drive all the way over there. And then I was like, okay, well, then don't. So then he's like, no, I'm going to come. So we meet at a restaurant. We have a decent date. I mean, it wasn't like fireworks or anything, but it also wasn't crazy bad. So then we're getting ready to leave, and my friends call me, and they're like, hey, we're going to be at this bar, like, come meet us. And I felt kind of bad, because that's just the kind of person I am. And he lives an hour away, so it's like, hey, maybe you just come have a drink with me and my friends, you know, so you don't feel like you're only out here for like 45 minutes and then you had to drive all the way back home. So then I say to him, and this is where the problem began, even though I don't think it was that big of a deal. I said, your name's really Ryan, right? And it was funny because I had just went on a date with the guy a couple days before that whose name was like Jack or something on his profile, but his name was actually Steven. Okay, so I was just curious. Well, then he starts with, oh, you don't even know my name? I paid for this dinner and all this stuff, and you don't even know my name? I said, actually, I do know your name because I just said your name. I was just clarifying that that's actually your name. He seemed to take serious issue with this. So then I was like, oh, okay, well, like, if you're mad and you just want to go, he's like, no, never mind. Again, my fault. I should have just ended the date there. He wasn't like aggressive about it, but he was clearly upset. So then we get to my house because he parked in front of my house because we were going to take an Uber because we're being responsible, right? Another thing I probably shouldn't have done. I don't think I've ever done that since. And we're waiting for the lift and he kisses me. Okay, fine, whatever. But then all of a sudden we're in the lift, we're in the back seat, and his mood changes again. And I'm like, you know, trying to be playful, you know, nudging him a little. And then, like, I go to, like, take his hand, and I'm like, hey. And he kind of, like, does this to my fingers. And I was like, what? So now I'm like, okay. So, like, I'm texting my friends, and I'm like, hey, I got to figure out a way to get away from this guy. I try to be as honest as possible. So once we hit the bar, I look at him, and I was like, hey, do you want to just take the lift back to your house? Or back to my house to get your car? Because you're clearly upset, like clearly, like the whole mood is off, he's off, and I'm just like, okay, like I'm not feeling this at all in any type of way. And he's, no, I want to come in. So obviously, like, I don't know this guy that well. He's already being weird. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to make a scene, whatever, fine, maybe we'll have a drink, and then I'll say, okay, I'm gonna go disappear with my friends, and then he could go his separate way. So we're in the bar, and now I'm not interested in him at all. So I don't want to let him buy me a drink. So I'm going to buy my own drink. So I asked the bartender for a beer, and he's like, no, I'm going to pay. And I was like, no. Like, I mean, he's already like acting weird about the name thing and how he paid for dinner. And so I'm like, no. So anyways, he insists. So he pays for it. Right. And then, so like, I turn to him and I say, hey, like, I don't really think this is working out. Like, I'm not really feeling this. Like, thank you for coming out and thank you for dinner. But, like, this is just really not working out. And I say it in a really nice tone, and I say it quietly. And he stands up, and he's like, I knew it, you fucking bitch. And he starts just cussing up a storm. And he's just yelling at me in this packed bar. So my friend is with a guy, and the guy kind of jumps up, and he has to, like, get into his face. The bar bouncer person comes, and they kind of, like, push him out. So, like, he's yelling now through the window at me and cussing and all this stuff. So now all I'm thinking is his car is in front of my house. So now I want you to get your car out of the front of my house. And I'm like, okay, is he a weirdo who's gonna like break a window or do something weird? So he's texting me non-stop, like texting me. And he purchased the lift, so he knew the address to get back to my house. So, but he's like cussing at me. He's telling me that I don't even look like my pictures and that I'm fat and that I'm all these things. And he's just going on and on and on and on. So I block him from texting me. But then I'm like, man, I wonder if he has gotten to the house and is gone. So then I look at my Snapchat and now I have all these snap messages from him. And he's like in video still cussing me out. We're talking like 35, 40 minutes later. But I finally see like he's in his car. So now I know he's not in front of my house anymore. So then I block him on Snapchat. And then the bartender says, wow, I'm sorry. Like, why was your boyfriend so mad? And I was like, that was a first date. And he was like, what? That was the first date? And I was like, yes. And he was like, I think you get free shots. And I was like, well, that's nice. You don't have to do that. But yeah, that's a story of how I got cussed out on a first date. By far the worst date I've ever been on. I can't even say probably. That was the worst date I've ever been on. Some men are just really sensitive, I guess. I mean, it was just a question. But one of my friends was asking me, like, what's the worst date I've been on? And it reminded me of that story.
My boyfriend told me this morning that he was going through my old TikToks and he went to like one of the very first ones that I ever made before we started dating. Literally just set up the camera and I was like, should I hit up a boy or should I get Wingstop? It had me thinking back to that time because we were trying to figure out who I was talking about and like trying to line up the timeline of like who I could have been referring to. This guy was also in the music scene and we had met and like, I remember I had kind of a crush on this guy. But in that video, I'm pretty sure that night, like I went to one of his shows and that's the first time I think I had seen him. At that concert, I had gotten like really, really drunk, okay? I got back to my hotel room and I was so drunk at this point and I hit him up on Instagram. I said, where the party at? That night I was feeling kind of bold, so I was like, I'm just gonna shoot my shot. And I remember I was live streaming that night on TikTok and I had told my viewers like what I did. I was like, yeah, I texted this guy and I said, where the party at? And I was like reading the message to them and they're like, girl, you need to delete that immediately. That is so embarrassing. Why would you say, like, everyone was clowning me, so I deleted it and I felt so much shame. I was like, God, it's literally so embarrassing. I saw this guy again and this time I was like, girl, I'm not shooting my shot. But he DM'd me after the show. Like, we just hung out after, we just talked. It was like nothing crazy. But then we like kind of started to talk, but this is where it got weird. We had plans to hang out and we ended up like hanging out at this hotel. And I found out later that he was living with his ex still. His ex, he said that they were broken up and such, but unbeknownst to me, while we're hanging out at this freaking hotel, his ex showed up. And then of course, in typical male fashion, he tells me like, oh, she's crazy, she's an alcoholic, like she's toxic, this and that. But I'm forced to live with her, giving all these excuses. And so obviously I'm like, okay, maybe I should take a step back because this is getting kind of weird. Like, she's showing up to where we're hanging out at. He's telling me that she's crazy. This is just, there's obviously 3 truths to the situation. His, hers, and the actual real truth. Tell me why one day, like, we're texting and he's like, by the way, my ex brought up your name, which I'm like, pause. How does she know my name? He's like, yeah, apparently she was saying that like you were talking or dating to her ex like while they were still dating. That I was talking, like, I barely have talked to any man in my life. The list was very short, so I was trying to narrow it down, like, who could she potentially be talking about? And so he was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, she said his name is Christian. And I was like, Christian? I don't know a Christian. Let alone talked to a Christian like that, you know? I don't even know what's going on. I don't even know this girl's name. I don't know why she's stalking us. And his thing always was like, yeah, she's just really hurt. She's just really going through the breakup and everything. And we were best friends. And she's, you know, I want to still be civil and nice to her, which is fine. I don't have anything bad to say about this man, okay? That's not my intention here. But like, if a man that you're seeing even peeps the word ex, or my ex is this, my ex is that, or just starts bringing up their ex in conversations that have nothing to even do with them, run. But yeah, I sniffed that out pretty early on. There's also this other time too with the same man where I went to one of his shows and like fully expected him to, you know, come up and talk to me because, you know, we were like talking, and he didn't come up to me once. He did not approach me, did not speak to me. He saw me. He was literally the first person I saw when I walked through the main doors. Like, we literally made eye contact and he just like darted his eyes away and
didn't talk to me the entire night. Ended up finding out later on that it was because his ex was there. It was truly my one and only time ever entering like the dating scene. And I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with that BS anymore. And I have a boyfriend who's just normal. And Joel's like one of the only men in my life who actually use logic. I really hope I never have to deal with that again.
Story time of my worst first date. I've been waiting to tell this story for like a year or so, since October, but the guy from the date had said like, oh, I saw your TikToks at the end of the date. So I was like, oh, so I kind of just like waited and was like, I shouldn't post because he'll see it. But at this point, I don't care. I also have Pilates in 10 minutes, so this has gotta be okay. So there was this guy who DM'd me who like had gone to my college. We were both post-grad a few months, but like I didn't know him, but we were literally like the same major, which is really weird that we didn't know each other. I'd never seen him. Also, he was in a frat that like I knew the most people from that frat. So it was like weird that I was like, I've never seen you before, but whatever. I was a transfer student, so I was like, you know what? I just don't know everyone. It's fine. Basically, he DM'd me and I was like, okay, he still lived in Orange County. I lived in LA. Orange County is where our school was, but he was like, no, it's fine. Like, I can come up. That's fine. I was like, okay. Then he basically made it seem like, oh, I just happened to be up here because like I'm picking up something from my friend's house who lives in LA and he lives in downtown. So I was like, okay. Downtown was like not where I lived, but it wasn't too far from where I lived. So I was like, okay, do you want to meet like by your friend's house then? He's like, yeah, okay, like let's meet there in downtown. Which if you know anything about downtown LA, it's kind of like, okay, like maybe not the best place to meet, but whatever. He didn't plan anything, which I was already annoyed over. He was like, well, I don't really know the spots. Like, you live there. Do you want to pick somewhere? I'm like, it's so funny because you have Yelp and Google Maps, so you could find somewhere, but whatever. I suggested this night market in LA, which I had only been to once, like, literally 4 years before, and it was like popping. Like when I went, it was like a weekend. And then he was like, sure. And then I also suggested like these cute rooftop bars. Downtown has really cute rooftop bars, and I was like, there's like these places with like food. I was like, there's also, it's food or like drinks or whatever. I suggested like 3 places, but he picked the night market. So I was like, whatever, like, okay. I don't remember if I didn't let him pick me up or what happened, but basically we met there, okay. And he just kept making all these comments that just pissed me. Okay, at the time I was working at a law firm. Mind you, he was also a poli-sci major. He worked at a court. So like it was not surprising that like I don't even, basically I was working a lot at the time and it was a weekday and I was like, yeah, I had just come from work. And he was asking me like about like what I did for fun. He was like, so do you like have any hobbies? Do you do anything or do you just work all the time? And I was like, what? And I don't even know if he meant it in a rude way, but I was like, do I just work? Like, of course I have a job. I have the same degree as you. You're mad that I'm using my degree when you are also using your degree? Oh, I forgot. So at the night market, if you know, there's a bunch of like little like kiosks, think like the Orange County Fair or something, but like in a tiny area. And I was like, okay, we did a lot of like, there's tacos, there's like ramen, like what do you want to get? And he's like, oh, are you like hungry? I'm sorry. This is a date. Also, now in hindsight, I only pick like the most bougie restaurants ever for dates. But you live and you learn. And I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, I thought we were just doing like dessert. But like, if you want to get something, like totally. And I was just like, no. Like, I'm not gonna like force, like, I'm not gonna eat if you're not eating. So we literally just got like ice cream. And I think he got a cup size small. And I was like, okay, I thought you were a man, but whatever. Anyway, whatever. He was like nice. Like, then later on, I was talking about my friend, and I was like, yeah, like she's so slay. She works in finance. Like she's such a girl boss. I don't know how she came up. It was relevant somehow. And he was like, girl boss? You want to be a girl boss, huh? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, it was such like in a way of like, oh, you want a job? Like, yeah, I work at a law firm. I was literally working at a law firm as a paralegal at the time. So like, okay. And I was just like, okay. The cherry on top. There's a lot of things he said. This is the last thing I like remember. I also have Pilates in 6 minutes, so I need to wrap it up. Basically, we're talking about running, and I was like, yeah, like I like to. Oh my god, there's even more. I remember. Oh my god. First of all, I was like, yeah, like I like running a lot. I do running and Pilates. And he's like, oh yeah, like you seem like you're in pretty like average shape. It was either average or decent. I'm like, are you kidding, babe? Also, you're not all that. Like, you're the one that swiped up to my stories being like, you're so gorgeous, you're so gorgeous. Like, but now in person, you can say I'm averagely in shape. Like, you were not all, he was probably like 5'10". Like, I'm sorry. Then, we're talking about running. I was like, yeah, like, I really like running. Like, I could see myself doing like a half marathon one day. And he was like, oh, I could never do that. And I was like, oh, okay, like, you don't run? And he's like, well, like, I don't like to half-ass things. And he proceeds to say he would only do a full marathon Not a half marathon. 13 miles, are you saying I'm half-assing something? Okay. Then we're talking more. I was like, oh yeah, I used to go to Newport Run Club. Did you ever go? And he's like, oh yeah, I went one time before, but like I couldn't even finish the run. It's 3 miles. It's 3 miles. When I went to Run Club, there was a lot of times I did like the 5-mile option. And he couldn't even finish the 3-mile option. So that means he doesn't even run. But he's saying he would never half-ass something and do only a half marathon. And I'm half-assing when he... that's all I remember at the moment, but it was just so many little comments. Like, I don't even think he meant it in a rude way, but I was just like... I didn't even kiss him. I didn't even... And after he tried to hang out again, and I was like, I'm busy. Like, I was just like, you don't like women. You don't like women. So, yeah.
How do I find confidence in my body and wearing what I want? So when I was little, my grandma told me that any body part I showed the world besides my hands and face would be burned in Muslim hell, which I think is just like regular hell but in Arabic. Anyways, at that point, I'd already shown the world my legs, arms, and torso, so I figured I might as well just keep displaying them to get my hell's worth. In other words, ladies, there's no turning back.
Here are a list of the craziest things men have ever said to me since I started dating. As you guys know, I'm a 24-year-old girl living in New York City. My ex and I of 2 years have broken up, so ever since then I've been recently dating. But when I tell you it's crazy out there, because men have been talking crazy. Here are some of the things they've said to me. Also, disclaimer, these are different men. It's not all the same guy. Number one, I had a man once tell me, do not wear any more Kate Spade around me. Mind you, we were at Cheesecake Factory. I had to explain to him that I buy things because I like them, not because of how much they cost. I love Kate Spade. I've always loved Kate Spade. I have Kate Spade bags, Kate Spade jewelry, whatever. He follows it up by saying, oh, honestly, you're right. You do have a lot of expensive things. Like, duh, but get this. After he dead said that, he told me I might as well stop wearing Uggs too. He told me to stop wearing Uggs. Ridiculous. I had another man say to me, looks like you're posting a certain lifestyle. I'm not doing all of that. He was basically talking about the things I post on social media and mentioned how a lot of his friends would send him my post, which I followed up by asking why they were sending my post, because it's not like we're together, we're not in a relationship, we're just friends. One time I was at a function with a man. We came separately, but we were at the same place, and I asked him for a ride home. Mind you, this was after I was very sick and I did not drive to the function. He told me my house was out of the way for him. Keep in mind, he would have to take the same highway to get to my house. He just didn't want to have to stop at my house before getting to his house. Long story short, he ended up giving me the ride, but we argued the whole way back to my house. I had a guy tell me once that he didn't get me any flowers for our date because he didn't want me to get the wrong impression. Mind you, I was asking him what wrong impression. We're on a date. I had a different guy tell me the other day, the reason I don't take you out on dates is because you nag me. Mind you, the only reason I brought up us going out on a date is because he made comments about seeing my social media where I've been going out on dates with other men. So I said, okay, like, I'm free this week. What are you doing this week? Like, we haven't been out on a date since we started talking. And he told me he doesn't take me out on dates because I nag him and it stumbles his creativity. And because I'm asking, he doesn't want to do it because it's like he's only doing it because I'm asking. That one really pissed me off. I had another man tell me that he's lost excitement about me. This one was fair though, because I did ghost him for like a year. So it was fair, but I didn't like hearing it. What is wrong with you? I've had multiple men tell me this, and for the sake of being transparent, a lot of the times it's because I am the problem. I do be crashing out, but I do realize a lot of them either call me crazy or ask me what is wrong with me. Okay, next page. I've had a guy tell me once that I would look better if I weighed 150 pounds. Now, if you guys don't know this about me, maybe take a step on my Instagram. I look amazing. He was just shocked because he found out at the time that I was very thick. I was 165 pounds, even though my body still looked cheap. He then followed up by telling me I should lose weight and get down to 150 because I would look better. I had a man also tell me before that I look like I cannot cook. Now, I don't know if this is an insult or if it was kind, but something just didn't sit right about that comment. I also had a guy who wanted to take me out on a date once, but I told him I was going on a date with another guy, so he then offered to drop me off to that bowling date. Then when I got there, he didn't drop me off. When I got there, he then said that I should ditch my date to go out and be with him. Honestly, I thought that was so cute. The only thing that annoyed me about it is because until then, we had not got on a date for a while. So I feel like the only reason he wanted to take me out on a date is because I was on a date with somebody else. When he had so much time to take me out on a date, it was just giving jealousy or like, let me take you away from that guy. It's just annoying because you could have taken me out if you wanted to, but you wanted to wait until I was with somebody else to want to take me out. I've had a man also ask me if my body is real. I said, yes, it's it's real. Then he followed up and asked me again if I got work done on my body. I kept repeating to him that my body was real. I don't think this was really an insult. I think it just plays more to how a lot of people have work done on their body. But guys, I'm completely natural, 100% natural. The only thing I do is Pilates and sometimes go to the gym on a good day. And finally, I've had a man tell me I'm 24 and I need to start focusing on getting married because soon I'm gonna be too old. That one pissed me off and I almost cursed him out because he's way older than me. And I'm 24. I'm not focused on marriage right now. I'm focused on stacking bread. And those are just some of the craziest things men have said to me since I started dating.
I was told to make this video, so I'm going to share with you my hinge date from hell. And to be honest, at this point, I feel like I need to start making this a series because I really just be going through it. So first off the bat, I naturally think I'm in an episode of Love is Blind because the person that I matched with doesn't have that many pictures, but like the little bit that he did have, like you could just tell that those were old pictures. And so I asked for his Instagram and I saw that he had no post, but he had some tagged photos. And so I checked the tagged photos and I had to go, FBI shit and look up like his pictures, like his most recent one. And there was only one that like you could kind of see his side profile, but like not really. And so I was really just going on a limb here. I'm gonna sit up for this. So then we're talking and we're texting and the banter is good. He's like funny, sarcastic, like it's like right up my alley, right? And I'm like, you know what? Even though I don't fully know what he looks like, I like his personality. So I agreed to go on a date. And he suggested we do dinner and karaoke. Now, I'm not saying I did the smartest thing, but I definitely gave him my address so that he could pick me up and so that we could go together. In my mind, I thought that was a good idea. Don't be like me. Don't be a dumb bitch. So then he picks me up, like the day, like we talked for about like a week and a half and then we met up. And he picks me up and the karaoke place that he picks is literally an hour away. But before we even get into that, my first impression of him, I was so nervous. I always am nervous when I'm going on a date with someone. So I literally only looked at him for like 5 seconds. And in those 5 seconds, I was like, oh, like he's cute. Like he's pretty cute actually. And so I was like feeling good about it. We get in the car and I like really start to analyze his features. And I'm like, Immediately I think, you know what? I'm not like fully into how he looks, but it doesn't matter because I wanted to still like go on the date because I was interested in in his personality. So keep that in mind. So we have an hour in this in the car ride. And I'm telling myself like, let's get to know each other kind of thing. And so we're asking each other questions and he's asking a lot about my past and my past relationships or past really anything that I had going on with a guy. And so I am being fully transparent and telling him all my business basically, but like not OD, I'm keeping it general. Let's keep in mind that he's also sharing stuff about himself too, so it's not like I'm the only one. So whatever, we get to the place and I already decided that like looks wise he's not like fully my type, but we go to the restaurant and we order and y'all, so the way that the layout was set up, right, there's like TVs everywhere. So he's asking me a question about like my high school experience and whatever. So I'm telling him and I see that he keeps looking back like constantly because he's looking at the TV, he's looking at the football game. And I'm one of those people like you need to give your attention to me or I'm gonna feel a type of way. So I immediately was already feeling annoyed about it. So he's not paying attention to me, but he's not fully ignoring me either. Like he can still like jump into the conversation with me. And so I was just like, okay, whatever. And I am by no means funny. I am not like the funniest person ever, but whatever I said had him laughing so loud and so obnoxiously that the servers and the people around literally were stopping to stare at us and to ask if we're okay. Bitch, do you know how loud you need to be in order for the bartenders and the people at the bar to stop what they're doing to look at you? And I'm sitting here like this, like I'm like, and he is full on cackling. So after that, I immediately was like, nah, like he's really fucking weird. And keep in mind, I am also on my sobriety journey. I am fully sober and definitely feel like it's hard being sober in your 20s, but it's especially hard being sober in your 20s and dating. And so I had already told him that I was sober and that I wasn't planning on drinking, even though we were still doing karaoke. I wasn't planning on drinking. And he was like, well, if you're sober, then I'm sober. And I was like, you know what, that's actually pretty sweet because you don't have to do that, but you're showing like you're very considerate. We get to the restaurant. Why this man orders 2 beers. And I was just like, you know, fine, whatever. But like in the back of my mind, I'm like, you just said he was gonna be sober, so now you lying. But again, it's whatever. So we're still talking. He's still being fucking loud and laughing like a fucking maniac. And then he gets quiet and he's like in space and into his own thought. And I'm like, what are you thinking about? And he's like, you should drink. I'm like, what? I was like, why? Like, no, I'm okay. I was like, why? And he goes, I just think that you should drink. And I was just like, no thanks, I'm all right. Mind you, the minute he said that, I already like, ick, gross. Like, why would you even say that to me? Like, bitch, what if I had a fucking alcohol problem and you hear, you should drink? Like, no one asked you, okay? Genuinely, in that moment, I knew that he was not getting a second date. Now I'm just trying to push to the karaoke part, because now I made it through dinner. And now we were like, okay, let's do karaoke. And I was like praying that this date would go by faster, because it felt like I was in my own personal little hell. So we get to karaoke and this man, we're singing. At first I'm like, you know what, it's not so bad. Like, he's singing, I'm singing, and we're having a good time. It's whatever. But he orders 2 sojus for himself. And I was like, all right. And meanwhile, I'm fucking parched. I'm dehydrated. I want water. And like, before y'all say, oh, like you could have asked him or you could have told him, I feel like on a date, like, you should also be considerate of your partner and ask, hey, it's like, do you want something to drink? Water, fucking soda, Sprite, ginger ale, really anything. But he didn't do that. And so I was not going to be the one to like say, oh, I want a water or I want ginger ale. Like, I was thugging it out, bro. I was raw dogging it. My fucking throat was like, it was hurting. I was choking. So afterwards, we're singing, and out of nowhere, he's like, you should freestyle. And I'm like, I don't want to freestyle. Like, I don't know how to freestyle. I don't know how to rap, bitch. I'm not Nicki Minaj. And he goes, like, you should do it though. Like, you should try it. And I'm like, how about you do it? And then I will like follow your lead. Like, if I see you do it, maybe I can do it. Starts freestyling and he starts rapping. And this man starts rapping about my dating history, about my past. Like, straight up starts saying, Nikki's been heartbroken 3 times and she not over it. Yeah, she's not over it, but she's still bad though. Like, she a baddie though. And I'm like, sir, in what moment do you think that I told you about my past and my history, bitch, my fucking traumas, so that you could rap about it? Like, what? Like, y'all, I had never ever in my life had someone rap about the shit that I've been through. And so he finishes his rap, a 3-minute rap, bro. And he's like, all right, your turn. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to rap. I was like, I don't want to rap about your life, and I don't want to rap about anything that you told me. Literally just go silent. He puts on a song and I'm like, you're not gonna sing? And he's like, no. And you could just tell he got so sassy. What the fuck is up with this song? So I'm like, all right, so if you're not gonna sing, like, we're just gonna sit here in silence. And he's like, yup. And so we're literally sitting in silence in this karaoke booth, and we're just hearing the beat to this song that I don't even know. And in that moment, bitch, in that moment, I genuinely was like, I miss my ex. I do. I really, in my mind, I was like, because as a shit of a man as he was, there's no way he would have had me sitting in this damn fucking karaoke booth in silence. I was appalled. And so I'm like, all right. And I don't know what to say. I don't even know what to do, bro. Like, I'm literally just sitting in silence because I cannot speak. Man goes, what time you trying to get home? I'm like, not too late. And so he was like, let's do one more song and then we can head out. And I'm like, sure. I'm like, give me an artist and I'll choose the song. So he gives me Nicki Minaj. I'm trying to type it in. And he's sitting with his arms back, you know, like this. And he's just like, Nicki, come into my arms. I was like, what? Like, I pretended I didn't hear. I was like, what? And he's like, come into my arms. Y'all, this shit is gonna need a part 2, but he goes, come into my arms. And I'm like, I'm not affectionate. Like, I had to lie. I didn't want to be in his arms. I don't know what the fuck he's trying to do, bro. All right, deadass, like, we're gonna need part 2.